What's this?
That's
Beautiful.
That's pretty straight on.
Yeah.
That's straight on?
It's right, that camera right there. So you're on.
Yeah, well, this is way better than from before.
But then if I stand,
We'll just adjust it.
we'll just adjust it. I don't
Yeah.
want to.
And I'm doing a different feed with an HD camera back there.
Whoa,
So that
pretty
we can-
fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You look great, Ruth. Want me to show you a screenshot?
Yeah.
This is what it looks like.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let's just hope no one knocks it over.
How many books is this for you?
Well, this is my new and selected.
New and selected.
So this is my 5th book.
Wow.
And I edited a feminist anthology, so that's 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
First for me.
That's so exciting.
Congratulations.
And you work with Kevin, huh?
I do. I work with Kevin to edit Spoke.
You know, Kevin was once my student.
Was he? I think he's coming tonight.
300, so I gathered.
Yeah, you signed up.
You better come. I'm bummed that Mark can't come.
Yeah, me too.
I know.
I hope he's all right.
I think he has some
I sent him a
problems.
greeting card. What's wrong with him? Is he sick?
Yeah, he has something going on.
He has
You know
heart
what?
issues,
Heart stuff.
Hearts.
but I don't know.
Is this the same thing that he was in the hospital for before?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. Because I know he had a really harrowing time before.
Yeah, and he got through it, but I don't know.
Oh my God.
Can they see us right now?
Yeah, you can see it. Oh, Karina van
Kubaki's here.
Berkum. Karina van Berkum.
How's that?
It's young
We saw
daughter.
Ricky when we came in.
It's up top. My face in there?
It's fine.
This is that Lori's picture right there? Oh, yeah.
Lori, there's
The rest. Should I do both introductions at the same time? Or should I?
Gio, what do you think?
What do you think? What do you think?
Last weekend we did it at the same time, but prior readings we did differently. So we do both at the same time.
Should I do both introductions at the same time?
Karina.
Karina.
Good question.
Do you want me to do both introductions at the same time?
Sorry?
I can do both introductions at the same time.
Fine's by me, whatever you'd like.
So we'll wait 2 more minutes for people to arrive and we begin.
And then you, I can sit down there.
You can, whatever you want.
Okay.
I'll be standing and they'll adjust it.
Okay. All right. Hey, Kevin.
Isn't David?
How you doing?
I'm psyched for Ruth and Karina.
Me too. Are we beginning?
Let's begin.
Okay. Welcome to the Grolier, and I'm here for the publisher of MadHat Press, Mark Finchens, who's in Western Massachusetts watching this right now. Hello, Mark. Thank you for all the wonderful books that you put in, and I know you're very excited about
I am. Thank you, David, for representing MadHat Press this night.
No problem.
Mark.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Mark.
Mark's here. It's like Max Headroom. Well, Mark's excited about both of these books, and so am I. First, we're going to hear from Ruth Levson. I'm delighted to introduce my friend Ruth Levson and help celebrate her new selected poems because she's one of my favorite Boston poets. Her work takes up so many of the things that make postmodern and modern poetry worth it. It is intimate and free, no bullshit, no waste, and it is musical and never loses its sense of the spontaneous. It is an enactment of consciousness and good conscience. We're lucky to be poets here with Ruth. She's been a writer in residence at the New England Conservatory for about 25 years now, and she is truly a jazz person and a friend to young jazz musicians, many of whom she's introduced me to their work. Her other books have appeared with Blaze Vox, Bill Corbett's Pressed Wafer, and Alice James Books. So I'm looking forward to hearing you read, Ruth. Congratulations.
Good, I can take these off and put this on, and then maybe I'll have some idea of who's in the room, although I have no idea who's elsewhere. But thank you, a big thank you to Mark, who has given innumerable hours to the book through many proofs and much thinking, and also to Ben Mazer, who's sitting right here, who edited my book. He did a brilliant job. Couldn't have done it nearly so well without him, and he wrote the introduction as well. And James and the Grolier, who continue to be the most important gathering place. So I'm going to read for about 20 minutes. And James, could you give me a heads up when I'm like at 19?
Sure.
I'll just stop, even if it's in the middle of a poem. No, not really. Success. When you're dark, you come to me. In your dark, two slivers are work and family. They're deep, but they narrow when you say you are so busy. It frightens me in an opaque day clouded with memory. An old dog dreams on the rug, his stiff legs now more like a swan's, underwater, loose and free. Your legs twitch under the blanket. All day they move stiffly to push ahead. I run, but only to catch up. They run to be loved. These trees, after I've left, these trees, their insistent green humming will shine, and all my emotions will have been just that, mine. Swampscott Hour. Swampscott's on the North Shore. I've written many poems for it. Seagulls spread out in a line by the water's edge. A string of lights unraveling. Ducks, dark as darkest rocks, form a circle in the sea. On the drive home, the sun huge, its reflection white gold on telephone wires. Something turning into something new. Cool wind, something old. Black birds fly. Black stars in a white sky. And this is a prose poem called For the Dead. Coming back from vacation, I passed a cemetery with a sign that read, "Pray for us." I had thought that if anything, they were praying for us. Now, the black hollow notes of Shostakovich, September, and the oval leaves of the locust, matter of fact, push me to work. Maybe in purgatory, a woman waits for us to lift the shadow that falls on her, the shadow we can still move in this changeable place. Maybe all we can do for the dead is give up our poses, since after life there is no more silence over a meadow. There are no sparrows whose explosion into the sky sends a ripple through our patient bodies. I'm glad David likes that one. I'm glad he introduced me, my friend. Just a sec. Okay, many of you are familiar probably with Lorin Nietker, a poet who lived on an island in Wisconsin and was quite poor and observant. Dreamt I was Lorin Nietker, walking home from the hospital. The sky was whitish gray, noticing weed and branch along the way. In church, I wore a pillbox hat, carried a modest purse, saw every bit of life there advance. Okay, this is the only longish one. It's called Motet for Mom. I started writing down things that she said as she developed dementia, never intending to make a poem out of them, but then at some point some of the lines sort of came together and I wrote the poem and I was able to read it to her and she said, "That sounds like me." What would you like for Mother's Day? Do you hear the word nothing? I wish I could wave a magic wand and make you feel better. You are magic. When you're here, it's magic. You say such sweet things. I say such sweet things because I have sweet thoughts, but I don't like your blouse. My darling daughter, do you think about Dad a lot? Not a little and not a lot. Do you like the video about the history of the Jews? It's not a question of liking it or not liking it. I'll do whatever you think I should. Do you like it a lot when I come to visit? It's not out of this world. Why not? It's in the world. Are you thinking a lot about your life? Mm-hmm. You're such a devoted daughter. When you get a lot of food, it makes you happy. Want to keep reading Henry Moore? That's enough. It's not so interesting. You can take it away. The television has the word lifetime on it. I'm tired. I don't feel like sleeping. It looks ridiculous to call this picture Lifetime. Go home soon. It's enough. They like living there. I don't feel good now. No, I don't want any more. I won't say anything. I'll just rest. Who's that? That's somebody on TV, Mom. There must be 1,000 people here. We're in the emergency room, Mom, and it's crowded. Chippy cookie, I shall depart and go home. This Henry Moore sculpture doesn't impress me. What's so funny? Do you believe in God, Mom? A little. Do you like the snow, Mom? Yes, I like the snow. Do you? Yes. It's a white world. Enjoy the day. What are you coughing for? I have a cold. It's nothing. It doesn't have to be something. I became a mathematician when I started thinking about mathematics. How old are your boys, Franca? 3 and 6. Bring the 6-year-old. Do you love me because I'm your mother or because I'm lovable? I could eat chocolate all day long. Actually, it's not true. You cannot eat chocolate all day long. I'm lucky I opened my eyes, she said when she saw me. You could never come to visit enough. This chocolate cake is heavenly. It's good for us both to see each other, especially if there's also chocolate involved. Whatever you have in your house is yours. Mom, what are you thinking about? You ask too much of a person. Mom, what are you thinking about lately? Set theory. Mom, what are you thinking about these days? I'm thinking about my past and about your past. Mom, what are you thinking about? The weather. What do you think about? Everything that happens at that moment. How much time have I got?
Like 6 minutes?
Oh. In that case, I'll read the longer of the two. The poem of Jay, after Harold Bloom and David Rosenberg's The Book of Jay. I asked A about it. He laughed. This is also a prose poem. He laughed and said I already knew about it. Well, he didn't seem to realize that my problems were with me. I asked B about it and she was very upset and said my life was hard and her life was hard. I asked C about it and her answer was very interesting and well put, but I couldn't apply it to me. So I asked D about it and he spent many years giving me the answer little by little, but at this rate, I'll never get it. I asked E about it and he made some disparaging remark and wanted to talk about money. I asked F about it. She didn't want to talk about it. I asked G about it and we had a very intense conversation, after which he disappeared and never came back. I asked H about it, but there was a question of confidence that got in the way over and over again. So I called I about it, since of all the people I know, he seems to know most about it. But by the time I reached him, I was tired and couldn't sustain the conversation. Finally, I talked to Jay about it, who is dying this year and who didn't feel very much in his life and invented a persona more consciously than most of us do. And he said he hoped he'd find feeling and learn to love and learn to die. I wished him luck, and he was astonished that I was crying, since we had been out of contact for years, but now all that had angered me seemed petty. And I'll read, do I have time for one more?
Yeah.
This is for Bill Corbett, who many of you knew, and a poet and publisher and friend to many. Energy for Bill Corbett. He insisted on getting to Garrett's memorial at Gloucester's Hammond Castle by the sea. Fanny walked him up the aisle. He spoke. I couldn't hear what he said. His face was unrecognizable. Our man in Boston, as Creeley called him. You felt the energy in his red, round face. He conducted, eyes closed, to nail the rhythms while the poets read. He was the one who had brought them there. There's so much to think about. I guess I'll go home. The last time he was at my house, he said, as he was leaving, with a mutinous smile, "Thanks for the gossip." He treated poetry with respect. Thanks a lot.
Way to go, Ruth.
Yeah. Thank you, my former student, now a famous world economist.
Still paying those days.
But I can stay in the same spot.
All right.
So just leave it as
Okay,
is.
okay. Yes. I'm really excited about reading Karina van Berkum's new book because I've heard her read and read her poems in journals, and she's one of the best new poets around. Karina van Berkum is a poet and editor. She grew up in rural New Hampshire and finds herself returning to the woods. She enjoys writing about family, childhood, queerness, animals, and the wonderful places she's traveled and worked, including Greenland, South Africa, Slovakia, Peru, and Austria. She was a 2016 Robert Pinsky Poetry Teaching Fellow at Boston University, where she received the Hurley Prize in Poetry. And she's taught creative writing at Grub Street and Boston University. Her work has appeared in publications such as Ploughshares, 5 Points, Unlikely Stories, Woventail Press, Beltway Poetry Quarterly, the American Journal of Poetry, and Strange Horizons, for which she received the Rhysling Award nomination for Outstanding Poetry. Karina now lives in Vermont, where she is the Editorial Project Coordinator for MIT Sloan Management Review and the co-editor of a great, great journal, Spoke, the annual that she edits with Kevin Gallagher. Her first book, Warren, her new book, Warren, is her first book. So congratulations.
And thanks to Ruth for such a wonderful reading and for agreeing to read with me. And thanks to everyone here and as well as everyone at home, wherever the camera is. I'm thrilled to be here. This is my favorite bookstore in Boston, and I knew I wanted my reading to be in Boston, even though I did just move to the woods. But it's really wonderful to be here and to have so many familiar pairs of eyeballs in the crowd. So I'll just start reading. I'm going to start with the first poem of this book, which is called No Earthquake. Your town moves mid-dream, staggering the china. The yard seizes up its collection of roots, who will later dive patiently into those long pores they're leaving. In the clamor, you begin to understand spring, who has always scratched from the inside out of her young body. You never heard her wildness. Then such a static little secret, and now the freight train at the door. Maybe you should have listened closer, but you are so human. You are afraid of greatness and cannot know this shaking is nothing but real need to bloom. So the next poem I'm going to read is called Bright Red Birthmark, which you'll never know what that's about. No one will ever know. If my port wine birthmark could sing, it would be operatic. It is not feeling nor forlorn, but it looks loud and peals out of me. Trapped in my skin, the red vessels crowd the way salmon urge against a sudden and fattening net. And while ugly, my birthmark boasts a view. It is perched high on the head, wedged as if hastily between the eye and hairline, one dauntless brow spawning up and through, poised to notice all the life I do. And if it could, trillingly, narrate me, I might not mind being mute. My voice would seem silly. Who needs words if heady arias can sing what the heart hopes to say? I saw a matinee, once alone in some European Stadtstocker, while pale sopranos, red mouths heaved unrequited lovelornities. I sat and wondered how my birthmark looked on me. So I guess there's sections of these books, about I'd say 6 or 7 sections, and they're all kind of more or less chapters to me when I wrote them. They're kind of organized in sort of themes or parts of my life. And there's this one that I call it sort of a graveyard of lost loves. And they're not necessarily my experiences, and they're not necessarily one type of love, but it is funny to see them all together. And this one I'm going to read is about a story that I love about Laura Deneuve. And that is, if you've spent any time with me, you probably know the story because I tell everyone this story, which is that Laura is the beloved of the poet Petrarch, the Italian poet Petrarch, from way back, before Shakespeare. He developed the Petrarchan sonnet and was kind of, this poet I learned of, and I learned that his beloved was Laura, and he wrote to Laura. And she decided to not return his love because she wanted to remain chaste, so that she would continue to be written about, because she said, well, if I give in, then the poems will stop, and I choose to be immortalized in this work, which I thought was just fascinating. And so I've always kind of loved that story. And the lore is, and I don't know how true this is, but what I learned from a great poetry teacher is that's why it's called the poet laureate. So whether or not that's true, it's not true. Okay. Laura Deneuve. The name is beloved. When I learned of her chaste Petrarchan refusal, I had to have her. What kind of woman has the self-preservation to hide feelings forever for the sake of art, of herself in art, of some coy immortalization? His name heads the lines, but her head is the lines. See its dark crescent in the heartsick spine. Okay. So next one I'm going to read is a poem that I wrote in Greenland. I was visiting Greenland for part of the BU scholarship, and my father came and visited me, and it was a wonderful time. And I became really amazed by the ravens that were there. Remember them, Dad? They were like these huge ravens that just kind of were part of the town. They were in a small town by the sea, and there were ravens everywhere, and everyone just seemed fine with these immense ravens that seemed to ingratiate themselves, and I was fascinated by them. So this is called The Residents of Narsok. Ravens weigh this vista down. You see 100, 2 at a time, and they are always bluer than you think they will be. See their heads rise from ruddy breasts, kitschy foul, as if the winter has dark teeth. A Greenlander told me the infant-sized ravens will keep punishing the rooftops, callousing their calls, casing the Arctic until they're done with us. They fly low, he said, to remember your face. How much time am I at?
Like 15 minutes.
Yeah, at least 10 to 15 minutes if you want.
All right. All right, this poem is called Take. Hell, take anything and see what happens. Take the hand of a traveler and she'll become stone, no longer free or alone. Take the feral shine of childhood from the kiddies and watch them waste into their paper birthday plates. A man said, take my love to his lover, and they both became blind, and their cats and geraniums died. Okay. Let's see. I'm kind of deciding what I'm reading on the fly, which is fun. I decided to just have a few that I knew I wanted to read and then decide on the order. All right, I'm going to read this poem, Mona, which is for both the Charlotte Perkins Gilman story, The Yellow Wallpaper, and the portrait in the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, where I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's a portrait of Isabella Stewart Gardner sort of wrapped up, and I've also told everyone and their mother that story. And so this is kind of a surrealist poem based on that. Mona mourns for spring. At first cold, she zhuzhes the master bedroom, curtains closed, and stays for days, then weeks. Her wallpaper is the landscape now, the sconces, umbrellas where a little boy in shorts might sit with Nanny. Mona will not miss the begging tulips because they are here, ripe tissues sprouting from the bureau by the river. She grins just so, waits until the rain lets up, and then spreads an old picnic blanket over this field, stained with Mona. Mona this morning, Mona's last supper. Soon the robins are out. They rage against the mountainside. She kills one with her hand and smears what's left against, smears what's left against the bright lawn. It is spring, has been for years. There is dancing. Someone is asleep in the river and Mona creeps over him every time. So I think what I'm going to do now is read a few that are not in the book, if that's okay. Because why not? There's one poem that should have been in the book and somehow ended up, most definitely my fault entirely, with the shuffling of the manuscript and everything. It sort of found its way out, and this is a poem that I wrote for my father. And it is also from Greenland. And we went to Greenland, and I meant to write about the landscapes and of the ravens, which I did, and of all the beautiful, the scenery. And I did all that, but what I wrote about most was my time with my father, because we hadn't spent that much time together in many years, and it was wonderful. So this one is called Together in Greenland, and it should be in the book, but maybe it's better that it's not. Together in Greenland. We like fish and a scrounged side salad after climbing, our legs all wobbly and glad. He arranges things carefully, as if not to disturb the halibut's sleep. We like wine and water, wine for him, water for me, or tea. We take it in at the window scene, an inlet of an inlet of an inlet of sea. I love to hear my father speak. About music, his love for ferns, whether he knew all along about me. The chocolate we like is dark, fished from the bottom of his crummy pack. It tasted good on the mountain, and it tastes good now. We agree. Okay, I think I'll do two more poems. This is, keeping on the family theme, I have a poem that I wrote fairly recently, and it's called Two Brothers. Two brothers. I watch my boys spread themselves thin around the world and worry. I want them with me, want to fold them inside two golden chests and lower those amiably into the sea. There's me minding the perfect surface of the mad Pacific, while my best loves sleep beneath, consumed, cold-bodied souls who hold me afloat. Their little lives and lungs are so full now, and I am the lifeguard. I am the guard. All right, this last poem is called Missing Baby. Cleaning the French press one-handed with tiny Beth, teeth out, wedged on my hip like a wrong-kneed infant. Blasting Bonnie Raitt, singing, well, you know how it is with me, baby, thinking I just can't stand myself. Pretending you are here, not the dog. Bethy, the angel, doesn't budge while I play out the long evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for attending on behalf of Grolier, the Vankiti family, and everyone else who's involved in Grolier. We're so happy that this is our second reading back in our new hybrid series. We'll have another reading next Thursday. Yes, next Thursday we have our next reading. So we hope you'll all be able to make it there, whether that's in person or virtually.
Who's reading?
It is Anthony Corelli and Troy Jolin, both published by Princeton University Press. And thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Friends.
We have books for sale and T-shirts and many other things. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
I didn't even think about that.
That's the last one.
That's so funny. I never even considered that. Maybe I should give him credit.
Yeah, well, I know. It's a beautiful line.
Thank you.